Hi everyone, thanks for being with me. I'm going to talk about one of my favourite topics, which is conspiracy theorists. And I've said this before, but I think it's really important that we recognise that there's some crazy people out there and they need to be named for their craziness when it appears. It interests me that they have the following that they do. And it's a strong indicator, I think, that we need to be wary of them because they are relatively dangerous in terms of the crap that they spread. And I'm gonna highlight a bit from a feed from David Campbell, who's enthusiastically calls himself the guru, a guru of what I'll never know, as I'm about to demonstrate to you, because there isn't much happening between his ears that makes all that much sense. And I think it's important to be able to call these people out whenever we can because they simply need to be called out. They're basically trying to call everybody else out, particularly the deep state, politicians in general, whatever is the current trend in conspiracy theories. And so it's helpful to look at some of the things that they say and to work out whether or not they are all that relevant. I'm the first to admit that sometimes conspiracy theories turn out to be true. But the conspiracy theories that these guys delve in very rarely are. So I'm going to play a little bit of his video, not the whole lot because I don't want to bore you to death, which it probably would. But I'm going to play some of David's live feed because there's some issues in this that I really think we need to consider because it's basically crap. So let's have a look at what David has to say, and then we will. I'll talk about it as we go through, and I think
that's all right. We're in a war. We expect it to be given it to. Okay, so we're in there, right? Boots and all. So
I don't know what this war is, quite frankly, and the fact that they keep raising it as some sort of battle that we need to have is beyond me. And I don't know who these groups are that think that they're the ones who are waging the war to save us. And so there's this continual cry out, if you like, for people to wake up to what's happening. Well, we're awake, we're watching you guys, and I can tell you what we see is not all that encouraging, I can assure you.
The Pfizer shots that went down with the tornado or whatever, guys. Some things to look at there, right? Like a DEW maybe, because no cars in the car park, no this, no that, just bang, direct.
Have no idea what crap he's talking about here.
Exactly where it had to hit, so that's interesting, all right? Yeah, have a look at it, okay? Look into that. Now, Obama, okay, first I heard of vehicles in commotion on Martha's Vineyard, all right? And next I've heard they've done the Bolt, all right? Bags packed and gone.
Now, I'm going to actually debunk this theory because I don't know what information he's got. Firstly, we need to acknowledge that Martha's Vineyard is an estate on which Michelle and Barack Obama have a property. It is nothing more, nothing less. It is an estate or a suburb, however you'd like to refer to it. And this particular instance, though, that they're talking about is, and I'll just have to bring this up, and I'll hopefully you'll be able to see this. So the situation is that a young person, sorry, it's not that young, it's 45, I think. This gentleman who worked for Obama as a chef was living on Martha's estate or nearby, and there's a pond, which is their version of a very small lake that sits on Martha Vineyard. It's not a part of the Obama's property. It's just a pond, a place, a little lake that people kayak on. And this young man had died or was found dead in that pond while he'd been out canoeing. Nothing nefarious. That is it. There's an article on it on the ABC, the American Broadcasting Commission's website, which I will endeavour to bring up for you. The body of missing paddleboarder recovered from a pond in Martha's Vineyard on Monday morning was the employee of former President Barack Obama. Drivers for the Massachusetts State Police Underwater Recovery Unit retrieved the body of 45-year-old Tafara Campbell at the Edgartown Great Pond. Tafari was a beloved part of our family. This is a statement from Barack Obama, I think. When we first met him, he was a talented sous chef at the White House, creative and passionate about food and its ability to bring people together, President Obama and former First Lady Michelle Obama said in a statement. In the years that followed, we got to know him as a warm, fun, extraordinarily kind person who made all of our lives a little brighter. The Obamas asked Campbell to continue working with them after they left the White House, and he generally agreed. It's been part of our lives ever since. He was visiting Martha's Vineyard at the time of his death, so he wasn't a resident. The Obamas were not at home when the incident occurred, according to the police. The victim's body was located by Massachusetts Environment Police officers, according to the Massachusetts State Police. So the issue there is that somehow the guru, who is not a guru, clearly, has gathered this information and has tried, and this is what they do, they've tried to connect the death of a person who happens to be working for the Obamas, who did not die on their property. And then they've added this additional bit, which was that the Obamas have packed their bags and left. So the conspiracy gets is that the Obamas had something to do with this guy's death. Not the case at all, far from it. In fact, the Obamas weren't even there. So this is what conspiracy theorists do. They add bits and pieces that are just plucked out of the air, that have no specific meaning whatsoever, and then extrapolate that into something which builds into a conspiracy concerning the Obamas, which is appropriate if you hate the Obamas, as these people tend to. So moving back to my friend Guru, this is what Maury has to say.
So, again, we got to look into this stuff, guys, find out what is going on. But, yeah, sounds like heaps is going.
Well, I've just looked in for it, mate, you dickhead, and I can tell you right now, that's what's going on. Maybe it would be really good if these dudes decided to actually inquire and look at the other media that tells them actually what's going on, apart from the conspiracy theorists, right-wing crap that they tend to want to refer to all the time.
Going on. Now, we've also got a guy called Joseph Viger. Right now, he's a whistleblower from the IRS, all right? And he's dropping DOJ, Merrick Garland and that. They're going to be, looking for some places to run to, all right? Because the IRS is now dropping open on what Biden's been up to. All right, so like we
There's no truth to any of that story, incidentally. Still doesn't know what he's friggin' talking about.
presume, guys, we're getting insane like disclosure. All right, now,
I don't know how they get this insane disclosure when two of the stories he's already alluded to, well, the first one in particular I can confirm is completely invalid, and the second one is the building on a conspiracy theory that's put out by the Republicans. So neither of them necessarily, well, the first one certainly doesn't carry any weight. The second one carries very little.
Said, you probably couldn't impeach Biden because he's not the real president.
I love this.
Okay,
bit.
but
so he's not. So you can't. Oh God. Now, if he isn't the real president, I guess that means that Trump is, and Trump's the man, therefore being indicted now probably for a third time. So if Biden isn't the president and Trump is, why is Trump's Department of Justice? Why are they then prosecuting him? I mean, none of it makes any sense. But this is the way they roll. So So Biden is not really the president.
If we're in a movie, guys, I suppose the impeachment, may happen, could happen. I don't think it will.
They talk about this stuff all the time. So somehow we're part of the matrix, and we're living this thing like people did in the Matrix, where they were all stuck into computers, and this is all an illusion. And at some point, we're going to wake up out of this illusion, and we'll realise what the real world really is. This is their whole thing.
But it's a possibility. All right, we're in a movie, so it is a possibility. Yeah, whether he resigns but I mean, something's got to happen this week. All right, now, Mike.
So, and this is the other thing that really fascinates me, is that everything's going to happen tomorrow. Right, this week. A few weeks ago, it was the fact that there was a lot of military action. There was some here in Australia and around the world, and that by the beginning of this month, or partway through this month, there was the military were going to take over the world and get rid of the cabal, the politicians and pedophiles that are rampaging our nation. So this was all going to happen a week or so ago. Never did. Also, a week or so ago, the internet was going to crash, and we were all going to start again with a stack of new information, I would guess, that was full of of conspiracy theories and other shit. So that never happened. It never happens. It never happens. But they always hold on to the notion that it's going to happen within the next week or so. I always find that quite interesting.
Pence, he's changed. Have a look at Mike Pence, see what's going on there. I've heard a little bit about Harry and Meghan, who we don't really care about, but apparently they're going to separate. So
I haven't even looked at that story. I don't know where in the hell he got that from either. Haven't seen it in the mainstream media. So probably another bullshit story.
Just a bit of stuff over there. Maybe there's something in that rabbit hole. Who knows? 13 million paid to Antifa, all right, to burn the cities and that down, guys. This is what the left's doing over there. 13 million.
Now, I'm going to show you something of this story, because this is another conspiracy that is just so wrong. Just wonder whether I could find that site. Bear with me. Right, so this is the article from which their site came from. So this is actually what is happening, and I'll see if I can make that a bit larger for you. Right, so in New York City, officials have agreed to pay $13 million to violent 2020 Summer of Love BLM and Antifa protesters after they caused damage to 45 businesses. Over 1,300 protesters are eligible to be paid nearly $9,950 for police action after their summer of violence, looting, arson and property destruction following the death of George Floyd. That does not include payments to roughly 300 protesters awarded nearly $12 million in individual lawsuits. Now, the issue here is New York City has agreed to pay this amount of money to settle a class action lawsuit accused the city police department of using unlawful tactics against protesters following the death of George Floyd. Roughly 1,380 protesters. Now, what we need to note here is that Antifa is a loosely formed organisation. Now, it doesn't have a head office like Republicans do, or Democrats, or the Greens Party, or anybody else for that matter. It doesn't. It's a loosely held group of people. They have chapters and they have some Facebook pages, and to some extent they want to confront people like the Proud Boys and other right-wing groups. They're quite prepared to be violent, I hasten to add. An attitude and a practice which I don't agree with, but that's who they are. But they are not a specific organisation. They are an anti-fascist group, hence the word Antifa. And in this particular lawsuit, it was a bunch of people who were part of the Black Lives Matter protest who have put this lawsuit together to receive some sort of money for inappropriate behaviours by the police. So to say that it's Antifa is wrong. It's not Antifa at all. It's a whole range of different individuals. Some may have belonged to Antifa, some may not. Most of them probably don't. But they are. So to make the claim that $13 million is being paid to Antifa is simply wrong. So there is so anyway, I guess I was going to read another article, but that's basically the gist of it, and that's all that I need to say around Antifa. And they've got it wrong again, as they seem to get everything wrong, these dudes. But this is the way they roll.
Brilliant. Unreal. Just to go in.
It is unreal, mate. Yeah.
You know, and then we've got Catherine Campbell resigned. Okay, with the robo debt and that. ScoMo back on the scene.
Yeah, that's the first time I've ever heard them refer to robo-debt. If you want to have a shot at governments for their lack of transparency and their corruption, robo-debt's the thing to have a go at. But they don't. They would prefer to talk about Obama and the fact that someone who worked for him has unfortunately died. They prefer to talk about that, to talk about Meghan and Harry. They'd prefer to talk about anything apart from the real issues that have actually occurred in this country that are reported by mainstream media, which are about corruption and lack of transparency. They don't report about that. We never hear them talk about Dutton and the stupid things that he's done. They never hear them talk about Morrison and all the things that Morrison has done in terms of the many hats that he's worn and the way he's obfuscated his responsibility around anything that he did while he was just a member of Parliament and then Prime Minister. So never hear them talk about any of that stuff because they are so narrow-minded and so much down this rabbit hole, they don't see it when it hits them in the face.
Media hunting him down, doesn't want to talk. So, guys, yeah, there's heaps going on, man. Heaps going on.
There is heaps going on, and you bastards should be talking about it if you're that concerned about it. It just goes to show that you are not concerned about the real issues that are happening in this country because you're too busy with your head stuck in the hole like an ostrich, wondering about and thinking about conspiracy theories.
It's pretty exciting out there, okay? Now, what they're still doing, guys, before we get into this, okay, I just want to let you know, all right, that, look, there's new laws, and then I'll get to what I'm going to say, right? New laws permitting the use of marine geoengineering, all right? Now, listen, these guys are evil, man. This is how far they're going, all right? A new bill of...
I think this goes to show that this man here does not know what he's talking about and doesn't understand the technology. I mean, I'd be the first to admit I don't understand the technology around any of this stuff either, but he thinks he does.
Ending Australia's environment protection, sea dumping. All right, so they're going to go, the bill will allow Australian companies to export carbon dioxide streams. Listen, all right, carbon dioxide streams. So what they do, I'll just go down here a bit because I'll post this later for you guys. But so it's called, over the past few years in Australia, consortiums of research institutions and companies have been running numerous trials aimed at modifying the ocean's temperature and its capacity to absorb CO2 using OF, which is ocean fertilization. Right? OF involved.
He has no idea what ocean fertilization is, and it doesn't take all that much of an effort to look it up. Wikipedia's got an article on it. There are other sites with articles on ocean fertilization, and I don't know why he's making a thing of it. I can't understand.
Listen to this. The dumping of everything from iron to fertilizers into the ocean to stimulate the growth of phytoplankton that will then die and sink to the seafloor, thus sequestering carbon in the deep sea. Fucking nutters, mate. All right,
Why is that nutty? It's an experiment to see whether they can extract CO2 using the sea, extract CO2 out of the atmosphere by increasing the amount of plankton in the water. I know this stuff to that, well, as much as I can, but so that we can have more plankton in the water, which would extract CO2 out of the atmosphere, which would get rid of the excessive CO2 that is in our atmosphere that's causing climate warming.
It's insane, right?
Insane.
So what they've done is in 2021, the Whale X project dumped 300 litres of fertiliser into the ocean off Sydney, right? And announced their intention of dumping another 2,000 litres in a follow-up trial last year. That's right, they're now pouring fertiliser directly into the ocean to save it. Right, and most people will probably believe it. They're saving it, guys. All right?
No, we need to say it's an experiment, and it's not proving not to be all that successful, I hasten to add, because it will only change a minuscule of, in fact, it'll take 100 years, I think, to change the environment by a very small percentage. I can't remember what it was. I did look up the article. You can look it up yourself. It's simply an experiment to see whether or not we can increase the amount of plankton, which will take CO2 out of the atmosphere. That's all it is. It's no big deal. But these guys seem to think that it is. And the information is clearly available if you're clever enough just to look it up. Instead, he's just read an article, and for some reason he's taken an exception to that because he thinks us pouring fertiliser into the ocean, it's not just fertiliser, it's other chemicals as well, and the amount that they're putting in is minuscule compared to the size of the friggin' ocean. So it's just an experiment, probably not all that successful, but at least they're trying to do something, and it's not destroying anything, it's only trying to make things better. So let's carry on.
This is what they're up to, man. So I could go on more, but I'm not. Okay, the article's here. I'll get it posted up. Right, it's just.
I want to now post up the actual articles to tell you what ocean fertilisation is all about, mate.
It's incredible, guys. But you know what? None of the news that I just told you, right? None of that. The bills that they're passing at midnight, right? That's only got to the 27th, guys.
I don't know what he's talking about here. If anybody has a clue as to what bills they're passing at midnight, I'm a bit bewildered because it can't be the federal government because they're on leave until next week. So which government is he talking about? What bills are being passed? There's a whole host of questions to be asked here, and I'm sure David Campbell hasn't got the answer either. And if he's talking federal government, he's talking out of his arse because they happen to be on leave at this particular point in time.
Guys, all right, it's up for a review for the 27th, which is only 2 days' time. And that Polly only dropped it out last night at 7:30. So, you know, this is what we're up against, guys. But I tell you, all of this means absolutely nothing if after tonight, introducing what we're about to introduce, we don't activate. Okay, it's as simple as that. So
I love this activation thing. So David Campbell thinks that he has a audience of millions who just hang on every word that he says, and that as a result of that, he's engaged and you're engaged with him and you're going to act. Now, whatever the act is, I have no idea. He doesn't tell us that because he doesn't know either. But he does expect people to take some form of action. And I don't understand what that action is supposed to be. David is specifically narcissistic, thinks he has more power than he does, continually tells us that things are going to happen and they don't, continually builds conspiracy theories. So he's selling these theories. Don't know whether he believes them himself, but he's certainly selling them to his listeners, the people that watch him, sells them over and over again, goes on podcasts around the world spouting this sort of crap as if he's the all-knowing, all-wise, all-intelligent, omniscient human being, none of which he is, quite frankly. Let's see what other crap, and then we'll finish with him.
Are we ready to go, Australia? Because we got to be. We got to get it out everywhere, and we've got to go. Okay, so let's get Kazza in here.
When you think about it, how uninspiring has all of that stuff been that we've just, why would you be inspired by this dude? Everything he's said so far is crap. So why would people believe in it? So he's now going to bring in these people, and
let's get Gideon in here. And let's g'day Gideon, how are you? G'day Kazza. All right, Gideon, as I said, we've got a lot of stuff.
Now, actually, I must confess, I don't mind Kazza because she does seem to be relatively intelligent, even though she has found her way down this rabbit hole too many times. And Gideon's a bit of a classic because now I meant to say this at the beginning of this feed, but if you watch, if you've got a streaming service of any sort and you're watching videos, they can be fun. But sometimes I think watching these dudes is as good a fun and cheaper than having a streaming service because they are entertaining, very entertaining, and particularly if you take a counter view to theirs. So, and they've had this bloke Gideon on many times who's a supposedly a mathematical wizard. And he came on when Australia won, lost the election by heaps, and he was putting forward some suggestions that the probability of them having as fewer votes as they did was most unlikely. And he spent hours explaining this stuff to people in the most involved way that the smartest person in the room would not have understood what he was saying. Yet they sat there, grilled to their computers, watching this crap that Gideon was putting up as if he was some sort of hero, none of which has come to fruition. All the complaints and everything they put in about the New South Wales election have not eventuated. And Gideon was the one that drove all of that. So he's this wizard, but not very smart, really. He knows how to put stuff together on graphs, and he can spin a few yarns. That's about it. Gideon makes you giddy. There's no disputing that at all. And we won't hear from him tonight because I won't go that far.
But, really, none of this stuff is any, is it of any even warrant if we don't activate, you know what I mean? Come after the show tonight, Gideon, and Australia starts to step up to the plate and do what it needs to do.
It's actually, it's more than that. It's more than that as well. We've got this coming up. So the World Economic Forum is ensuring that all natural health supplements, herbs and...
Can I just make the point that there's no reference to where this has come from whatsoever. I can't tell on the screen who has put that up. Thailand Medical News. So who knows what that is? It says 1 day ago, but who knows whether that's the case or not. They don't verify anything, so how would you know?
Phytos will be controlled or banned in the next few months, starting with New Zealand, then Australia, Canada, the whole of Europe, Japan and elsewhere. That's
ready
on
to
the
go,
cards.
Australia.
That's on the cards as well. But, so we've it's a race to the finish line, and we're going to win. All right, just before we start, let's just honour this man. This is Matt Lawson.
Yep.
New South Wales.
So we won't bother with this dude. I'll move it on a bit. I just wanted to finish off with this one. So this is a guy talking about...
he's doing 20 to 30 Ks a day, and he's doing it for vaccine injury awareness.
To change the political and economic system of the world to one of total collectivism. And in order to do that, people must not be allowed to have independence. They must be dependent on the state for everything. Otherwise, they won't be easily controlled by the state. That means they can't have private property.
This is a long-standing conspiracy theory, and I just wanted to bring up for you an article in relation to Agenda 21. So the question that we need to be asking, I need to put this up on the page, so just bear with me while I organise this. I think you should be able to see most of that anyway. So Agenda 21 is a non-binding action plan of United Nations with regard to sustainable development. Now, it's an innocuous plan because it, in effect, doesn't, it's not binding in any way like there are other agreements and stuff like the United Nations rights of children and the human rights agreements and so forth that we have with the UN. None of those things. So this isn't binding, but it's just an agreement that we have. So Brazil in 1992, it is an action agenda of the UN, other multilateral organisations, individual governments around the world that can be executed at local, national and global levels. One major objective of Agenda 21 initiative is that every local government should draw its own local Agenda 21. Its aim initially was to achieve global sustainable development by 2000. That's what the 21 refers to. It's about social and economic dimensions as directed towards combating poverty, especially in developing countries, changing consumption patterns, promoting health, achieving a more sustainable population and sustainable settlement and decision making. Includes atmospheric protection, combating deforestation, protecting fragile environments, conservation of biological diversity, control of pollution and the management of biotechnical. It's strengthening the role of major groups, including the roles of children and youth and women, blah, 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 blah. Section 4, means of implementation includes technology transfer, education to national institutions and financial mechanisms. So it is really, I don't know how they're able to sort of contortion this idea, which was basically to be able to establish ways by which we can better manage our environment, basically. And how that has all come about now and been construed as this thing that's just going to take over the world and it's going to be governing all of us and changing our lives. None of it makes sense. That's the whole point. None of this makes sense. But to these guys, these crazy people, this group of people, it seems to have a sense of reality. And it's really, really sad that they listen to some of these conspiracy theories because they're bonkers. They're bonkers. And it isn't my sole job to call them out, but I will from time to time, and I have done so on this particular occasion. So let me know what you think about all of this. If you've got if you'd like to subscribe to my channel, that would be nice. Please feel free to do so. Make a comment below. Let me know what you think, and I'll get back to me, and we'll have a conversation about it. Thanks everybody for being with me. Take care. Look after yourselves and be safe.